Hey there, this is Ill Factor. Ableton has just recently announced their new update to Live, version 10. And there's so much excitement over all the new features. There's more than 200 features added to this new version. So in this video, I want to walk you through my top 10 personal favorite features that are added in Ableton Live 10. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, number one on my list of new things added in Ableton Live 10 would be Ableton Live's new look. So we're in the arrangement window. I'm going to expand my tracks here, and ta-da, we have solid regions. Now, this is a big breakthrough for me, and the minute I saw this, I was like, all right, you got me. And because this makes it really easy to manage big projects and big sessions, especially when you have these solid blocks, and it's just a little bit more visually appealing for me. And so when you're highlighting or working within a region, you can still, it clicks and becomes transparent so that you can still see the grid markings, making it easier for you to nudge and move things appropriately. So you still get your transparent grid markings to show up in the regions just once you select that region. Another thing you might notice that when working with audio regions, you now have the fades there present. There's no need to hit the short key command to view the fades. It's right there in whichever region you create. So even if you create a specific slice, it'll also create a fade at the edge of that. So you have a nice little fade that you can add on without having to do the short key command. Really cool. Makes it very efficient, especially when editing audio in the arrangement view. It's also possible to just assign multiple colors or multiple regions within a track and assign them all to one color that correspond with that specific track. So for instance, let's say we've got this yellow audio track living in this new track here on the bottom. Well, I can right click on this track, this audio track, and then assign track color to the clip. So whatever track color I've decided to choose for that track, it will assign it to all the clips in that track. So we hit this, and now they're all the same color. It's a small detail, but it goes a long way, specifically when managing big sessions and things like that. So really cool. I thought this was really helpful. And another great thing that they've added was when editing and working with these regions, if you highlight a specific area, you can now hit the Z button or on your computer keyboard, and it will zoom in to that specific highlighted region. And you can then hit Shift Z to zoom right back out. So if you just wanted to edit those two audio notes there, you would hit Z and it would zoom right in. You can nudge them, move them, do whatever it is you want with them, and then hit Shift Z. Another cool thing is that you can now just right click on that and you could go ahead and reverse that clip. So by hitting R, you're reversing that clip. So you don't have to actually double click this, go into the sample editing window and hit the reverse button. It's all accessible right there. So it makes it really nice and efficient with your arrangement workflow, especially when working with audio. Now, number two on the list would be Ableton Live's collections. Ableton Live 10 introduces collections in the browser window, which gives you the opportunity to color code and bookmark specific samples, patches, or even plugins that you can have instant access to by just going to that specific color-coded category. So for instance, I call this dope one hits, and this could be just one hit samples that I come across. And the way you do this is by browsing through your hard drive or anywhere in your places, find a loop or a sample or a patch or even a plugin, right-clicking on that and say, I want this to go into my old school breaks category. And you can rename them and create your own categories so you can have instant access to them by just clicking that. And you can also double up specific sounds or patches. Let's say you want this to also be in another category. We'll just simply right-click that and include it in that category as well. And you'll see that it'll have an orange and a yellow dot. So you will find it in both the orange and your yellow collections. Now, this is a huge breakthrough specifically in your workflow, because now you can instantly go to specific plugins and specific one hits and samples that you normally gravitate to in your production. Like I said, you can even do this with synth patches and different patches, whether they're from proprietary Ableton Live plugins and synth instruments, or you can also do the same thing with specific plugins. You can edit your collections by going up here and hit edit and just enable the ones you don't want to see or do see. And then you can just simply right click on them and rename that to whatever it is that you want it to be. So this is a really great enhancement to the workflow, and it's different than Places. Places would just be a specific folder on your hard drive that you want to go to. But let's say you come across a dope sample that you really want to use, and you don't want to have to always keep browsing for that. You can just right click on that sample and assign it to a specific color coded category and have instant access to that all the time. So number 3 on the list is Ableton Live 10's new audio effect plugin, Drum Bus. Heading over to the audio effects folder and choosing Drum Bus, let's add it to our drum rack here. Now the Drum Bus includes a saturator, compressor, transit designer, and this section over here that allows you to add some low and subharmonic frequencies to give some nice beef or bottom end to your drums. So let me go ahead and play the drums going through the drum bus, and then I'll bypass them so you can hear the difference it's making. It's like night and day. And I love this because now you can go ahead and use the transit designer in there to just really just bring out the punchiness of the drums by cranking some of that. And then you can add some of the low end. So I'm going to accentuate this a little bit so you can hear what the boom amount is doing. It's a really great and helpful tool to get the drums to sounding the way you want them to sound. Now, number 4 on the list is a new audio effect plugin called Echo. Now, Echo is an advanced new delay incorporated into Ableton Live 10, and it's amazing. So right off the bat, you see that you have this nice little visual of what the delay is actually doing to the signal. You have your left and right here, and you can pair them so that they change together, or you can actually unlink them so that you can have the right or left signal independent in its own type of timing. You have your feedback, really nice just for creating that nice cool dubby effect. But they also have included a reverb that you can add to either the post, the pre, or the feedback of the delayed signal. And you can determine the decay here. What I really love about this delay, though, is that you can change the format of the type of delays, the processing from stereo, ping pong, and even mid-side, which is really cool. You can get some really cool effects this way. So when having it selected to mid-side, you can have the mono or the mid at a specific tempo synced delay, and then you can have the side being delayed differently. And this is what it would like in ping pong. It's really cool. Then you also can add a filter on the bottom here. You can actually filter out the frequencies you don't want. Then there's also a modulation section here that you can add to the actual delay, as well as some really cool things that you can add to the character, such as ducking. So ducking means that it would allow the signal to actually, it'll allow the delay to get out of the way while the signal is going through it, and then you hear the delay after it. So you can just determine the threshold here. So on. And you can determine whether the delay would either repitch or it would just jump to the delay here. It's such an amazing, powerful delay plugin that they've incorporated now. And I've just been ending up using this on all my tracks. It's just really cool. And the reverb on there is really cool too. It has this nice little spring reverb type of vibe. And I have it set to the post. So it's only applying the reverb to the post delay, not the actual original signal going through it. So really cool. You can determine the decay here. Number 5 on the list is Ableton Live 10's new device, the Wavetable Synthesizer. This is a new device included into Ableton Live 10, and so many possibilities for creating so many fresh new sounds, because now you have, besides just the basic analog shapes and waveforms that you could choose from, you can now go into this category and choose from a number of different wavetables and go within that and change all the parameters here. So it is pretty amazing what you could do with this new device. So I'm going to do a more in-depth video about this specific device in another video. So be sure to check out that down the road. So you have the different oscillator here. You also have a really cool visual menu for this. You can just click this right here and it takes up the whole screen. You have all the you have your oscillators, you have the modulations, your envelopes, and your filter. Everything's on there, and so you have the matrix down right here. And so it is a beast. It is a really amazing sounding synth, and you can do so much with this. Let me see if I have that. So you can go ahead and change the format. And so 2 filters built into this specific device, and I just really started messing with it, and I'm already falling in love with the sound I'm getting from there. They also have different types of unison that you can add on here, which is really cool and gives this nice shimmer to the overall sound. You can use the MIDI section here to assign different parts of what it is that you want to target. Oscillator 1, the frequency filter, and you can go ahead and assign that by your pitch wheel, the note, the velocity. So it really can go, you can do a lot here. Depending on the different types of velocity, you can change the positioning of your oscillator. So, really, really cool. Number 6 is Ableton Live's capture feature. Now, I have to be honest, when I first was introduced to this feature, my mind was blown because there have been so many times where I wish this feature was in existence, because there were times where I would try to start an idea for a project and I would just play on my MIDI controller, or I would, use my push and just start working on a beat. And I was like, wow, that was a really cool groove. Now I have to go back, record it, and see if I can replay that groove exactly the way I was playing it when I was just kind of messing around. And most of the time, I don't capture that moment. Sometimes I do. But the capture feature is amazing because what it does is it allows you to just simply, jam around, or just, play your MIDI controller, and Ableton Live is always recording and taking note of what it is that you're playing, and it will capture that performance. And then you can go ahead and use that by just hitting the capture button. So let me just show you what I'm talking about. So here we have in the session view, I'm not going to record, I'm just simply going to audition the sound, and I'm using the wavetable for this. So here we go. I'll just play a couple chords. And head over here to this new feature, hit capture, and there you see the chords that I've played without even hitting the record button. Now, this is just Ableton Live keeping note of what I'm playing in the background. And what's great about this is that Ableton Live will automatically detect a 2 to 4 bar loop. So let's say you were just jamming out for a long time, and as long as you give it a downbeat, or a somewhat of a circular downbeat, Ableton Live will know the tempo in which that you were playing in. So this is amazing if you just want to go ahead, load up a blank template, mess around with a couple sounds, or make a beat, and then have Ableton Live capture that and tell you the tempo of that beat, or that you were vibing with, and then start basing your whole idea off of what you've just captured. Really, really powerful. Number 7, session backups. Ableton Live now backs up your session so that you can always revert back to different versions of your project. So you can go to your current project section here in Places, and you'll notice this backup section here. You can now go back to different versions of that, different backup sessions that Ableton Live will save for you automatically. So every time you hit save, a new backup session will be created. So you can revert to the different version on there. So I hit save, so there's a new session here. And so let's say you deleted 4 tracks and you're like, you know what? I wish I never deleted that. You can always go back to a previous version. The great news too, when you're loading a previous version, Ableton Live also saves the undo history of that current version as well. So you can revisit some of the undos that you've made in that specific version. This is extremely powerful, especially when you're in a tight spot and you need to revisit a certain mix, or you need to go back to the project where you had an earlier version of that idea there, and you wanted to compare it to, or you wanted to access that file from that previous version. So session backups, great thing. I'm glad to see it in Ableton Live 10. Number 8, new audio effect, the pedal. The pedal is a new audio effect included in Ableton Live 10, which adds overdrive, distortion, and fuzz. Almost like adding a new stomp pedal into your collection. So I've got it added onto the bass. We could check it out. There's the overdrive, some distortion, fuzz. It's really helpful to add just some more grit to any of the instruments that you're using. You can actually do a nice low frequency boost by enabling the sub button. And you have a 3-band EQ to boost or take away. Number 9, Max for Live is now built in and integrated fully with Ableton Live 10. Now, previously in Ableton Live 9, you would have to have Max for Live running in the background so that you can access any of the Max for Live audio plugins or instruments. But now, Ableton Live 10 is including and embedding Max for Live, so you can simply just click Max for Live and drag and drop any of the effects or instruments into your tracks. This makes the process a lot more seamless and gives you more plugins and more instruments to have at your disposal now that you can include Max for Live this way. And number 10, automation and multi-MIDI editing. So if you've wanted to edit MIDI notes and compare them to where other notes are placed from other tracks, you can now do that in Ableton Live 10. So for instance, we have these keys here, but I also want to edit them in light of where the drum pattern is being played. But I would have to usually switch from this one over to the clip in the drums. Now you can do that simultaneously. So I can just click this clip, hold the shift button, and click the drums, and now you'll see that they're both combined. So we hit the red area to see the drums. We can move them out here, and then you can click the blue area to see where the keys are. So it becomes grayed out. See, now you see the drums are grayed out, and they will highlight when you hover over them so that you can see where the drum hits are in light of where the purple or the synth keys are being played. So it's really helpful. You can click this now to gray out the keys and just have the drums highlighted. You can hit the headphone mode to preview that if you just solo that track. So I can literally preview now both sounds by just making sure that I've hit shift with both. And you can do this with more than just one. So we can have 1 or 2 or 3 combined together. And that gives me a better bird's eye view of what all the MIDI parts are doing together so that I can edit accordingly. Also, when you're in the arrangement view, you might have noticed this new button here on the side. Well, now this turns on the automation for all the tracks. You can access all the tracks by just hitting the A, and that would hide the automation. By hitting A again, that will show the automation. So this is cool because oftentimes when you're trying to edit the automation and you would delete that automation for that section, it would also delete the region as well. And that was a little bit cumbersome. So now by hitting A, you can just delete the automation without having to delete the region too. And so A will enable the automation mode, and then hitting A again will disable that, and you're going back to the regular editing mode. So it makes it really convenient now for the workflow, especially in the arrangement view with Ableton Live 10. If you want to learn more about music production, I run an online community for music producers called Beat Academy. Beat Academy is where I teach step-by-step tutorials on music production. Everything from making beats in different genres to producing vocals, mixing, mastering, and how to get the best out of Ableton Live. It's also the best way to get a hold of me personally and reach to a community of producers who will answer your questions and give you feedback regularly. You can try it for free by visiting mybeatacademy.com.